Back in the early 90s I worked at a video game store. You've never heard of it, trust me. Like most stores of this kind in the early 90s, we had several TVs and consoles set up and allowed people to try games. As one would naturally expect when kids walk by a store and seek other people playing SNES, NES, and Genesis games, they wanted to play too. As one would also naturally expect, this caused a number of loitering children to hang about the store all day, begging to ask to play games. Finally, the owner has had enough. We're told not to allow anyone not an adult to play any games until after 1 p.m. and no unaccompanied minors allowed under the age of 13 to keep most of the littler kids away. One morning I'm opening the store, 10 a.m., straightening displays, dusting shelves, etc. When a woman comes into the store with two little kids, maybe 8 or 9, bends over and gives them each a peck on the cheek and starts to leave. Me. Calling after her, "Excuse me, you can't leave your kids here." "Oh, I'll be back in a couple of hours. I have an interview." Me. We're not babysitters and we're not here to watch your kids." They'll be fine. They just want to play the games. I really gotta go." Proceeds to leave. Me. Practically yelling down the mall. "You can't leave them here, we're not here to watch your kids." Keeps walking. I call the owner says to call security. I call security calls the police. 10 min. Later and 2 officers show up and eventually get name information etc. out of the kids. Police confirm mom is not, in fact, in the mall. I told them she said she'd be back in a couple of hours, so an officer takes up a station across from the store to await a return. A little before 1 p.m., mom comes back into the store and starts freaking out because surprise, her kids are gone. The officer arrests mom. Mom is taken from the mall in handcuffs. I heard later that the kids were given to the father for custody. Mom was charged with child endangerment. I left the store shortly after that. I heard later that several others had tried to drop kids off at the store for babysitting. The new retort was, "Yay, you can leave them here," but the last mom that did get arrested. That saying though, "Yay, you can leave them here but the last mom that did get arrested" is so great to me, I might use that. That is so cruel. I'd never abandon my kids like that at all. I cannot fathom what goes through these people's minds when they drop their kids off at a store instead of getting a babysitter. I dunno, maybe it's because I actually like my kid and would like to keep him around and not be kidnapped and dead in a ditch somewhere, but if I needed someone to watch him, I'd call a friend, family member, or pay a babysitter. The reasonable things to do. You can't expect a stranger to watch your little trophy because you have crap to do. Plan accordingly, take the kid with you, or stay home. It happened more than once at the water park resort I worked at for a year or so. Let me preface this story by mentioning I'd been working with kids for over 10 years at this point, both in daycare and in the entertainment sector. Backstory? The local water park resort I worked at was geared toward families, so we had an area where kids and their parents could come and do crafts together. It had little tables with crayons and free coloring pages and books to read. We also offered several paid activities such as ceramics to paint and t-shirts to dye. Let's call it the kids' club. I was told by several coworkers upon being hired that parents were fond of trying to drop their children off in the kids' club, only to wander off and abandon them. This resulted in one of the employees on duty, there were usually 2 of us, having to chase the parent down to inform them they had to stay with their kids. Children over the age of 13 were allowed to come in on their own, but only an adult could supervise younger children. This will be relevant later. I was on my game from day one and families loved me. Even when I had to deal with EPS, I could be so frustratingly sweet and firm that they'd eventually relent. I'm a pretty tall guy, so I assume most parents simply felt they couldn't push me around. This one family came in. A mother and her probably 5-year-old son, a nice kid. NK. She crouches down and tells him to have fun before making her way to the door. Me. "Excuse me ma'am, you can't leave your son here. You've got to stay with him." He's just coloring. He won't be a hassle and I'll be downstairs at the bar if you need me." Me. "And we're delighted to have him, but per company policy, we can't allow children under 13 to be in here by themselves." I apologize. Fine. The mother takes her son and leaves. I think that's the end of it. But then the kid returns, this time with his sister S, who looks about 13-14 and isn't entirely happy about the situation. She had a wand in her hand, which was used to play the magic-themed game we had all around the resort. I figured her mother must have pulled her away from her game to make her watch her brother. The nice kid excitedly returns to the table where he'd been coloring. I looked at the sister. Me. Is your mother with you? S. No, she's not. She said I could be in here with him by myself. Me. I'm afraid she misinterpreted. You can be in here without supervision, but if your brother wants to play in here, your mom has to be with him. S. I'll go tell her then. Come on NK. The kid looked pretty sad to be pulled away from his art again. So I went over and grabbed some crayons for him. I held them out with a smile. Me. Here you go, buddy. Just bring these back when you're done with them and only use them on paper, okay? NK. Smiles thank you. Once more I assume things are done. Even if the kid didn't bring back the crayons, it was fine. They were just crayons and I had made a kid happy. Oh. How wrong I was. The next day I'm working the morning shift. I had worked in the afternoon the day before. EM comes in with her son. She balks at seeing me sitting in the room, sorting out crayons. EM. What are you doing here? Me. Putting on my best service smile. I work here, ma'am. Are you going to color with your son today? Or would you like to do some of our paid activities? EM. Why can't I just leave him here? You've got nothing better to do, you're just messing with the crayons. She smiles, convinced she's bested me. Even if it is company policy, she's right. The kids' club was pretty dead as it was a slow weekday. She hadn't counted on me being experienced with the daycare system. Me. Ma'am, I cannot do that. Not only is it company policy, but this kids' club is not in any way certified as a daycare. We don't have emergency contact information, we are not trained in CPR, which is regulatory for daycare workers. Nor are we equipped to be qualified as a daycare. This room has one single exit, a clear violation of the building code for any basic childcare facility. I'm the only one on duty, and while I do have various certifications and a degree, I was hired to be an entertainer, not a daycare worker. If you leave your son here, I will call security because not only would it violate my contract, but you would be participating in willful neglect of your child. We have signs posted that all children must be accompanied by an adult, and I have now informed you of this no less than 2 times. Your son is absolutely welcome here, but you must stay with him. She was shocked. I don't know if it was due to the unsettling customer service tone I took with her or the fact that I was obviously up to date on childcare regulations. Either way, she shut her trap, sat in one of our tiny chairs, and let her son color. Her son and I read stories together too, but I made sure she remained in the room. We weren't a daycare and I'd be damned if I let her treat us like one. I found out later she tried to complain about me, but seeing as how we had video surveillance that showed her trying to leave her child more than once, the complaint was thrown out and not put on my record. Even the sister is done with the mom's crap. OP. She was not happy about being pulled away from her quest. She came back for tips on where to find things, and we chatted about our parents dumping siblings on us. Both of those kids were awesome, and I feel for them having such an entitled parent. I was on a 6-hour flight a few years ago. I was in the window seat and there was a cute 5-ish-year-old in the middle and an entitled mom in the aisle. Before taking off, she looks at me and says, "I hope you have a big bladder because we are not moving." Okay, here we go. So I downloaded several Netflix shows and comedy specials to keep me occupied, and I put my corded earbuds in, 'cause I'm cheap, and settled in to close my eyes and relax to some Jim Gaffigan. A while later I feel my earbuds being ripped from my ears. I look over and entitled mom has my phone in her hands trying to unlock it. Of course, I was like, "What are you doing? Give that back." She just said I was sleeping, I wasn't, but that's not even the point, and didn't need it. Her kid did. Her kid was coloring in his coloring book by the way and was looking quite content. And the airline has movie screens in the seat backs, but I think she didn't want to pay for earbuds. She started holding the phone away from me out in the aisle and saying that I needed to let her son use it because he was bored. She got loud and a flight attendant came over. She tattled on me that I wasn't sharing my phone. She couldn't stop yelling at the attendant about what an idiot I am and how my mother should be ashamed, I was like 45 at the time, for raising such a jerk. Fortunately, the flight wasn't completely full, so she moved them. The flight attendant had to pry the phone out of her claw and threatened to have the police waiting to arrest her if she didn't go with her. They were replaced with a lovely woman who just read her book and left me on my Netflix for the rest of the flight. Poor kid, he seemed really sweet. Too bad his mom is nuts. This stranger isn't letting me steal their expensive electronics, the audacity. I'm always shocked by the entitlement of some people. Like, you're really going to take someone else's property and assume you're in the right? You handled this a lot better than I probably would have. OP. My wife. Why do you always lock your phone? Are you hiding something? Me. My lock code is our anniversary date. Let me show you some Reddit stories. Wife. I'm locking my phone.